Boom! We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be, and of course, however you may be listening. The Iowa Hawkeyes defeated UMass, the UMass Minutemen, 47-7 at home. Kirk Ferentz securing his 206th victory as a Big Ten head coach. And actually last year I was kind of searching that up, how many like pure Big Ten wins he had versus wins as a Big Ten coach, because those are two different things. And he now stands alone as the winningest coach as a Big Ten coach, winningest Big Ten coach, all victories. So congratulations to Kirk Ferentz, regardless of if you're a big fan of Kirk Ferentz, especially in today's day and age. It's a major deal. It's a huge accomplishment. You don't win that many games unless you have some sort of competency in your specific field. I'm sorry, you just don't. We can all discuss the finer points of Kirk Ferentz and his coaching philosophy and coaching skill, but I think everybody can admit that winning that many games is a big deal, especially considering that it wasn't at one of the blue bloods like Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, schools like that. So, not that Iowa is or a terrible program, and it wasn't a terrible program when he took over. Yes, Iowa was on the back end of the Hayden Fry era, but Hayden Fry had elevated the Iowa Hawkeye program out of pure mediocrity, mediocrity, if not far below that, by the time he was done at Iowa. So, again, it wasn't perfect when he took over, but a lot of things had improved. So congratulations to Kirk Ferentz for that. He's been the only head coach since I've been an Iowa fan. He's been the main coach, and it's kind of crazy to think that he has been here my entire Hawkeye fandom journey. That it is absolutely insane that he has been at Iowa that long. So I'm going to read an article from Hawk Central here. Ferentz stands alone with 206 wins against 125 losses as a Big Ten head coach. The record stood for 47 years, dating to the 205th and final win of Woody Hayes' 28-year Ohio State coaching career in 1978. As it turned out, number 206 had a little different look than most of Ferentz's previous 205 wins. The head coach unleashed an aggressive passing attack, watching his quarterback throw for 2 touchdowns in the game's first 7.5 minutes. I want to read this. Yes, there were tears from the head coach at that moment. He and Mary started dating in 1973. Ferentz arrived to the tunnel. Wife Mary and his 2 daughters surprised him with a game ball, which is pretty cool. They have been together ever since, including when Ferentz arrived as a 25-year-old assistant coach on Hayden Fry's staff in 1981. I'm trying to find Ferentz, Iowa football's 27th year head coach, officially became the winningest coach in league history on September 13th with the Hawkeyes' 47-7 rout of UMass at Kinnick Stadium. So this obviously is the post game. It's more like a day after because I wasn't able to record this immediately after Iowa's victory. Again, congratulations to Kirk Ferentz. He's won a lot of games. He has had a lot of success at the University of Iowa. I would say that at times Iowa has been knocking on the door of blue blood status. I don't think that they've ever quite been able to push through officially. To be blue blood, I think you have to have, like in a 5-year span, you have to have 3, maybe 4 years in a row where you're finishing top 10, and maybe one of those years you're a top 5 team and you're a contender for, a major, BCS bowl or national title. You're one of the best teams in the country. I don't think Kirk Ferentz has been able to quite reach those heights, but Iowa has been knocking on the door. They are a really strong program. That's why when people were talking about, Iowa State is officially a better program than Iowa, it's like, really? Really? You sure about that? You sure about that? Because it's like, hopefully some of you guys get that reference. Because it's like, is Matt Campbell the winningest coach in Big Ten history? Is he the winningest coach in Big 12 history? No. It depends on what your calculation is for, health, program success. Are you looking at it over 5 years? Are you looking at it, over 2 years? What weight are you putting on the head-to-head matchups versus, the overall season win total? There's a lot of different factors that go into it. I would say, again, if you're looking at it more recently, I would say it's about even. And I would still probably even give the edge to Iowa, because I would add in the success of NFL draft picks, recruiting success. Iowa still recruits better than Iowa State. But if you just look at it over the last 10, 15 years, Iowa still is definitely the better football program. So a lot of people tend to have recency bias. And that's a real thing. So try not to have recency bias. But the last thing I want to say about Kirk Ferentz's record-breaking, win is, it's not necessarily a like-for-like comparison. I don't think in Woody Hayes' days they were playing as many games as they play now. But, and in Woody Hayes' days, coaches were much more likely to stay put if they were experiencing success. Nowadays, that's not very likely, or as likely. And I think for Kirk Ferentz, this record is going to stand for a long time. Unless it's like an Ohio State coach or one of those guys. But even still, I think it's highly unlikely that this record gets broken anytime soon. I think if I had to guess, in my lifetime, this record is going to stand. Just because the way things stand now, I just don't see a coach staying long enough and having the success to break this record. Now, again, this is not a like for like comparison. There's win percentage, there's total wins. There's a lot of different factors as far as measuring, totals and things like that, but it's still an amazing accomplishment. The last thing I want to say is, and by the way, guys, just an aside, I'm going to have a basketball video. If you're not aware, because this video will probably be posted before I make that video. Iowa did secure a huge commitment. Ben McCollum continues to have success, so I just wanted to give you guys a side note there. But I think Kirk Ferentz speaks because he has been very honest about the fact that the plan was to build a resume and head back to the East Coast. Because that's where Kirk Ferentz grew up and is effectively from. And I think that him staying this long really does speak to the unheralded uniqueness of the state of Iowa and the people that live in the state of Iowa. I have never lived in the state of Iowa, but I have been there a lot. I have family. That's why I am a University of Iowa fan. And I know that the people that live in Iowa, people from the Midwest, it's a historic place that has, its own culture and is unique and, has a certain lifestyle and, and I think that needs to be highlighted because I think in today's day and age, there is a moving away of valuing uniqueness when it comes to culture and where people come from. We're kind of, and I don't want to get too big into this because some people might misinterpret this for being a political statement, but I think nowadays there's kind of this push for this routerless society where nobody belongs to any area, any people group, or has any background, where we're all just kind of humans, and this uniqueness that makes us who we are doesn't exist. And so I think it's important to highlight that. I've noticed it, and I think it's an amazing thing that the state of Iowa has and should be proud of. And Kirk Ferentz staying there speaks volume. Now, obviously, him making money and whatnot definitely helped. But Kirk Ferentz, especially in the early 2000s, his name, much like Matt Campbell, was being thrown out all the time as a name to be an NFL head coach, and he spurned it. All right. Enough about the Kirk Ferentz situation. Again, hats off and congrats. Let us discuss the actual game. So let's highlight the positives. I said in my pregame that I wanted to see Iowa use this game as a game where they vehemently attacked UMass in the pass game. I want to make it abundantly clear at the onset of this analysis of the game, UMass is not a good football team, okay? Iowa, and that needs to be pointed out for what it's worth. This is not, this is probably the worst team that Iowa has played up until this point. And so I wanted Iowa to be purposeful in their attack in the pass game to work out some of these kinks that they needed to work out. We know that they have a good offensive line. We know that they can run the football. We know this. They've been able to run the football every single game, to varying levels, but still, they have had over 100 yards rushing as a team in every single game. And so this was a perfect game to work out some of these kinks. Iowa did still finish with 201 rushing yards. So, but which I'll get to, and that is a positive in and of itself. Iowa's offensive line is superb, and Iowa absolutely attacked UMass in the passing game. They took shots downfield. Mark Gronowski probably made some of the best throws that he's made all year. Some great passes. He did make a mistake in, plus territory. He was kind of dancing around, but I think it was in the third quarter. I was actually okay with it because what he was actually doing was trying to not just take off and run. He was legitimately trying to keep his eyes downfield and find a passer. The problem is that his nature kind of took hold, and he started to take off and then decided against it, and so just that little bit of lapse was enough to not really make a play there, and so it was kind of indecisive. But I do like that that's where his mind is going, to try and not always just take off and take off and run. But he took shots downfield, which is good. It still wasn't a huge passing day for him. Let me take a look at his stats. He was 16 of 24, 179 yards, 2 touchdowns. It seemed like more, and I was really hoping that he'd get over the 200-yard mark. So that part is unfortunate, but still, this was his most efficient passing day. It was. And probably his best game, if you take into consideration the level of skill that UMass really does not have versus the other teams. Maybe this wasn't his best game, but purely from a statistical standpoint, if you don't take that into consideration, this was his best game. Sam Phillips looked good. He had 75 yards. It was just great to see a wide receiver making some plays for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Seth Anderson had 2 touchdowns, 3 receptions, 26 yards. Freshman Nathan McNeil got in there. What a great find he was, and I continue to be vindicated about him. Dayton Howard got in there. We still haven't seen Reese Vanderzee this year, so that's going to be a pretty big pickup when he gets back. I knew he wasn't going to be back for non-conference. A broken bone. I know Kirk Ferentz says it's week to week. A broken bone, even if it's a minor broken bone, you're going to be out for a couple weeks at least. So those were the positives. Caden Wetschin just balled out. I kind of feel bad because he really has not been that much more included in the offense from what he was last year. And it's kind of crazy because it's like, if this guy can make these plays for punt return and kick return, how could he not make these same exact plays on jet sweeps, which I think he actually did in this game, but various other passing situations or offensively situational type things. That's just a thought. But either way, he's a huge weapon. The guy made, something out of nothing. UMass, one of the bright spots that they do have is a solid punter. And, to no fault of his own, Caden Wetschin just made a better play on top of the solid play that the punter had. Again, the run game, Nathan McNeil, continues to look great, and a absolutely hidden gem that was Liddell Bett's parting gift for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Again, I feel extremely vindicated on him. Caden Wedgton, as I said, he got involved. 1 carry for 20 yards. Terrell Washington Jr., 3 carries for 18 yards. Josiah Patterson, 10 for 54. Xavier Williams did go down. He has some soreness in his arm. He's an extremely physical back. I don't think he is officially yet Iowa's number 1 back. I think Iowa absolutely does at this point have a committee running back approach, which is fine. They've had plenty of success with it. I think I would still lean on Kamari Moulton being the lead back. Kamari Moulton and Josiah probably are the top 2 backs, with varying levels of success from McNeil and Xavier Williams, depending on the game. It was good to see Brevin Dole get in there. I'm excited about him and his future. He just needs to get his feet wet and stay healthy. It was good to see Hank Brown in there. I really wanted to highlight this. Hank Brown probably made the best throw that I have seen an Iowa quarterback make this year. The touchdown throw that he made, I think it was play action. There was a UMass defender that made a great play shooting the gap. It was right there. There really wasn't a ton of separation between Iowa. I think it was Seth Anderson, whoever it was, Iowa's wide receiver and the UMass defender. I mean, they were pretty much neck and neck here. The gap, the window to make the throw on the big side of the field, the boundary in the end zone, was very small. Nonetheless, making it on the move with the play action pass, and he put it on a rope. I mean, it was a dime. It was he hit him in stride. It was literally a perfect ball. So I wanted to highlight that. He got his first touchdown. I'm excited about him. Hopefully he continues to push Mark Gronowski forward. We got to take positives where we can get it, guys. He is not Mark Gronowski. He doesn't have the athleticism, but he is a more traditional pocket passing quarterback. The negatives, obviously, the kick return. It was either kick return or punt return. I think it was punt return coverage in the first half that ended in a UMass touchdown. Was a lapse that needs to be shored up in Big Ten play. I'm not overly concerned. LeVar Woods is a great coach. You're going to have one of those every now and again throughout the course of a season. I'd rather have it early in the season than later. Iowa always has a strong special teams coverage unit, so I'm not too worried about that. But still, for what it's worth, not great. Drew Stevens did miss an extra point. He missed a chip shot field goal as well, but he also hit a 54-yarder. So, hopefully he's able to get that tightened up, considering, it was at home. The kick that he missed wasn't like it was a 50-plus yarder. That needs to be shored up. And the extra point kick being missed, that no excuses there. You gotta nail that. But that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, team stats, Iowa almost hit the 500-yard mark. They were at 435. I said in my pregame video that I wanted them to get over 400. That would be nice, which they did. I did want them. I wanted Mark Gronowski to have over 200 yards of passing, which he probably would have had he stayed in the game. But Iowa did have over 200 yards passing at 234. I think if they can be between 200 and 250 every game, that will be okay. Obviously, having more would be nice, but I think for the most part, that'll be okay. At the very least, they need to have 150. Anything less than that is not acceptable. Rush yards, 201 to 26. Yards per play, 6.1. First downs, 22. They were 10 of 16 on third down, and they only had one penalty, no turnovers. So that's it, guys. Great game. Again, hats off to Kirk Ferentz. I don't want to overreact to this game. Yes, there were some steps forward, but UMass is a terrible football team. No disrespect to UMass. As I said in the pregame, we need to see what Iowa is able to do against, the big boys, and specifically Big Ten foes. I'm not going to get crazy about a victory against UMass. I'm still going to highlight the positives, but I'm not going to go crazy in saying that this is the end-all, be-all, this is, magnificent, and this means Iowa's going to have, I'm just not willing to do that. But I am happy that Iowa made a concerted effort to work on the passing game, take some shots, make some plays, be aggressive. It was good to see that. So that was probably the biggest news of the day. Hopefully, Zach Ortworth, Zach Lutmer, and Xavier Williams can get healthy. Iowa just continues to be hit by injuries. It's crazy. I don't know what it is. I think a lot of it has to do with how limited the contact is. I know the thought process is the less amount of hits that we can, that the Iowa players can have in the offseason, the more hits they'll be able to take during the season. But I think that that's only true to a certain extent. You do need to train your body at a certain point to take hits. And if it's not trained, it doesn't matter how fresh or healthy your body is, it's not going to be prepared for this contact. So that's just, but obviously I'm not a sports scientist. I just know from my athletic career, that's kind of my thought. And it's I don't know if it's a strength and conditioning thing as well. I would be interested and curious to see what some of these other programs are dealing with as well. But anyways, hopefully those guys are okay. Hopefully we get Reese Vanderzee back for next week against Rutgers. All right, guys, and Kamari Moulton, which Kirk Ferentz seems relatively optimistic about. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Congrats to Kirk Ferentz, all-time winningest Big Ten coach. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share, and last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow and facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. Love you, Hawk fans. See you guys next time. Go Hawks. Bye-bye.